You wake up with a quiet promise in your chest. One day, things will be different. You imagine the life you want, the success, the respect, the sense of freedom, and for a moment, it feels almost real. But by the time the day ends, the dream has faded into the background noise of responsibilities, distractions, and fatigue. If this feels familiar, it's not a personal failure. It's a psychological pattern, because the distance between dreaming big and working hard isn't measured in talent. It's measured in behavior, belief, and the invisible forces shaping our daily choices. Most people assume success belongs to the lucky, the gifted, or the well-connected. But psychologists suggest that what separates those who merely dream from those who build extraordinary lives lies in deeper mental processes, many of which operate outside conscious awareness. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the biggest obstacle between you and your dream is the way your own mind protects you from pursuing it. But this is only part of the story. To understand why big dreams often fade while hard work feels impossible to sustain, we need to examine what ambition really is and why the brain both craves and resists it. From childhood, we are encouraged to dream big. We're asked what we want to become and inspired by stories of remarkable achievement. Yet as years pass, something shifts. Dreams become impractical. Risk feels dangerous. Stability begins to look safer than possibility. Research indicates that this transition is not accidental. The human brain is wired for efficiency and safety, not limitless ambition. Pursuing a big dream introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty activates the brain's threat detection systems. This means that when you consider leaving a stable path, starting something new, or investing deeply in a goal that might fail, your brain interprets the risk as potential danger. Doubt, procrastination, and hesitation are not signs of laziness. They are protective responses. Most people don't realize this is happening. They assume they lack motivation, when in reality their nervous system is attempting to preserve emotional safety. But here's where psychology gets uncomfortable. If safety always wins, growth never begins. Consider how often people delay action with phrases like, "I'll start when I feel ready. I just need more time. I'm waiting for the right moment." These statements feel logical, responsible even. Yet studies have found that readiness is rarely a prerequisite for progress. Instead, readiness is often the result of taking action. In other words, motivation does not lead to movement. Movement creates motivation. This reverses the story most people tell themselves. Think about the last time you felt energized after completing something difficult. Finishing a workout, solving a problem, completing a project. The energy didn't arrive before the effort. It appeared after momentum began. Experts believe this is linked to dopamine regulation. The brain releases motivational chemistry not when we plan to act, but when we initiate and sustain effort. This explains why waiting to feel motivated often leads to stagnation. But there's another layer most people overlook. Big dreams are emotionally expensive. They demand delayed gratification, sustained uncertainty, and the willingness to be misunderstood. They require you to persist when results are invisible and recognition is absent. And the human psyche resists prolonged emotional discomfort. Research into delayed gratification shows that the ability to tolerate discomfort in pursuit of long-term reward is one of the strongest predictors of success across disciplines. Yet modern environments train us in the opposite direction. Instant notifications, quick entertainment, rapid feedback loops. We are conditioned to expect immediate rewards. Hard work toward a distant dream violates this conditioning. This is why the early stages of pursuing something meaningful often feel strangely empty. Effort increases, but validation does not. Time is invested, but visible progress is slow. This is where many people stop. Not because they lack discipline, but because the psychological reward system has not yet caught up with their effort. But this is only part of the struggle. There is also the silent influence of identity. Most people believe they act based on goals. In reality, they act based on who they believe they are. If someone sees themselves as average, their behavior will unconsciously align with that belief. If they see themselves as resilient, disciplined, or capable, their actions begin to reflect that identity. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that identity-based habits are far more durable than outcome-based motivation. When effort becomes an expression of who you are, rather than something you force yourself to do, consistency becomes natural rather than exhausting. This is why two people with the same goal can produce dramatically different outcomes. One struggles to maintain effort. The other integrates effort into identity. And here's the paradox. Identity is not discovered. It is constructed through repeated behavior. You do not work hard because you are disciplined. You become disciplined because you work hard repeatedly. This creates a feedback loop between action and self-perception. But most people never stay in the loop long enough to experience the shift. Now consider the role of fear, not the obvious fear of failure, but the quieter fear of change. Success alters relationships. It reshapes routines. It can isolate you from familiar environments and expectations. Experts note that humans are deeply motivated to preserve belonging, even at the expense of personal growth. If pursuing your dream risks social friction, criticism, or separation from group norms, your brain may unconsciously reduce effort to maintain social harmony. This explains why people sometimes sabotage progress just as momentum builds, not out of weakness, but out of an instinct to remain connected. This is where psychology becomes deeply human. We are not driven solely by achievement. We are driven by belonging, safety, and emotional equilibrium. Balancing these forces requires awareness, not just ambition. Another overlooked factor is cognitive overload. When dreams are too large and undefined, they overwhelm the brain's planning systems. The goal feels distant and abstract, making daily effort feel insignificant. Research on goal setting shows that breaking large ambitions into measurable actions dramatically increases persistence. Small wins provide neurological reinforcement, creating a sense of progress that sustains long-term effort. Without visible progress, the brain assumes effort is futile. With incremental progress, effort becomes meaningful. This is why consistency often outperforms intensity. A person who works steadily, even imperfectly, will outperform someone who waits for bursts of inspiration. But there is still one final psychological barrier, and it may be the most surprising. Many people fear discovering their true limits. If you never fully try, you never have to confront the possibility that your best effort might not lead to the outcome you imagined. Holding on to the dream preserves possibility. Pursuing it introduces verdict. This creates a subtle avoidance pattern, staying busy without moving forward. The dream remains alive. Progress remains absent, and life moves quietly onward. This is where psychology becomes deeply reflective. Because the question is not simply whether you have big dreams. The question is whether you are willing to encounter yourself fully in the process of pursuing them. Those who ultimately build meaningful lives are not immune to doubt, distraction, or fear. They experience the same psychological resistance everyone does. The difference is not in what they feel, but in how they respond. They begin before they feel ready. They continue when progress is invisible. They redefine effort as identity. They tolerate discomfort long enough for growth to occur. And gradually, something shifts. The dream stops feeling distant. The work stops feeling forced. The person they hope to become begins to emerge through their actions. But this transformation rarely feels dramatic in real time. It feels ordinary, repetitive, quiet, which is precisely why most people underestimate its power. If you listen closely, you may notice that your dreams have not disappeared. They have been waiting, beneath routines, beneath hesitation, beneath the protective instincts of a mind, designed to keep you safe rather than extraordinary. The real question is not whether you are capable of achieving something meaningful. Research suggests that human potential is far more adaptable than we assume. The deeper question is whether you are willing to live with the uncertainty, discomfort, and gradual transformation required to bring a dream into reality. Because big dreams are not built in moments of inspiration. They are built in ordinary hours, repeated decisions, and unseen persistence. And somewhere within those quiet efforts, a different life begins to take shape. Not all at once, but slowly enough that only in retrospect do you recognize the distance you've traveled. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel ready. A few decide to begin anyway. And that decision, though invisible at first, changes everything.